Okay, hey guys, and welcome to today's webinar on cybersecurity threats. My name is Chris Gaffney. I do VP Business Development for KRS IT. I'll be your co-host today for the event, as well as a co-presenter. Joseph is going to be our expert speaker today. He's that handsome bearded man in the bottom left corner. Joe, say hi.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining today.
All right, so today we're going to basically go over some cybersecurity threats and things to be aware of. But a few quick things we wanted to mention before we get started is today's event is focused on small to medium-sized business owners or IT directors and how to protect your business from cybersecurity criminals. Lastly, please let's keep all questions in the question section, and we'll definitely cover them all at the end. We won't forget about anybody. This is an hour webinar, but we're going to try to condense it to around 30 minutes and just leave time for questions at the end. All right, so that's what we'll do. Okay, so a big promise to you guys. I know everyone is very busy. I don't like to take up anyone's valuable time. We realize that you guys' number one focus is your business, taking care of your clients and running it. So we're going to be as brief as possible. But I promise that what we're going to share with you today is an extremely important topic that you must address. I'm going to urge you guys to pay attention because there is immediate action required at the end of our session that I think you would all want to take heed of and protect your clients and organizations. We're going to basically today show you the results of hundreds of hours of research and testing around ransomware and what you can do to protect yourselves and your clients against these growing number of cyber criminals who are working day and night to hack into your systems, steal or corrupt your data, or delete it, costing you guys basically a lot of revenue and satisfied clients. So let's quickly go over some of the things that we're going to discuss today. Today we're going to cover who is KRS IT Consulting, why am I being hacked, the secret that we found to fighting back against ransomware, how taking the "we hope it never happens to us" approach is a huge mistake. That really doesn't cut it anymore. Also, so we're going to go over why yesterday's answers for fighting viruses, malware, and ransomware no longer works, how to prevent ransomware attacks and the damage they may cause to your reputation, why should I work with KRS IT, and most importantly, a free $2,000 offer on cybersecurity services. So if you guys can, please stay till the end so we can give you that information. There's some very important information at the end as far as specials that you could take advantage of from being on this webinar. All right. So let's start. Who is KRS IT Consulting? So we're an IT firm. We've been around since 2010, covering the New York, New Jersey metro area. Our clients range all the way from small 5-person shops all the way to 100+ organizations. We're focused on cybersecurity and data protection. We are experts in that field, and that is where we've migrated to. Microsoft, Dell, Cisco, VMware, and HP, we're partners with all of those companies. And we're actively reinvesting in this company, our profits, to give you guys the best technology and perfection. So some truths about cybersecurity here when we go over our slides. 1 in 5 of all small businesses will suffer a cyber breach this year. 81% of all breaches happen to small to medium-sized businesses just like yours. And 97% of all breaches could have been prevented with today's technology. So that's kind of really the staggering figure to talk about. 97% of this, a lot of this is very avoidable if you have proper education in place as well as proper software. But that's what we're trying to teach you guys today, is basically educate you where you need to be so you guys can put yourself in the best position not to become a victim. All right, so again, ultimately we're going to show you how to get the target off your back and protect your business from cyber criminals, rogue employees, and a growing number of IT-related threats. We're going to protect everything that you guys have worked so hard to achieve. And again, it doesn't have to be a scary hacker that's out there, the faceless person. A lot of companies are hacked from internal workers, people that are simply disgruntled, or their ex-employees that still have access to the network. We go on countless meetings, and you'd be shocked at how many of older employees still have active emails and ways to get into your network. So if you don't have proper, structure in place to get rid of that, then you're vulnerable to all of these threats. Okay, so moving on. Who do clients blame when they've been hacked? Unfortunately, I know the answer to this question all too well. It's me, it's Joe, it's their IT provider, or they're the first ones that they're going to call when something goes wrong. They're going to say, I thought you guys were supposed to protect us from this, and that's why we're doing this webinar, to educate people as to the new threats that are out there and the new software that's available to protect you guys against this. Because a lot of people are simply not up to the latest and greatest. They don't want to make the initial investment, and it will always come back to hurt you in the end. So we want to make sure that everyone is at least aware of what options are out there and that we're doing our job by educating you guys about the threats and the solutions. All right. So we'll take a quick look at this slide here. Here's a pretty disturbing statistic. Since 2015, ransomware, it just continues to grow. It was bad then, but it's getting way worse now. And in 2018, now it's even greater. So 2015 really wasn't that long ago. This is obviously much greater now, and it's only going to get worse, unfortunately. So back then, you can kind of take that measure and get away with crossing your fingers and hoping it's not you. But these hackers and cyber criminals have multiplied tenfold. They've gotten a lot smarter, a lot more dangerous. And if in 2018 you're taking the same method of just crossing your fingers and hoping it's not you, we can all but guarantee that it will be you. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. So there's a lot of scary things going out there, and we're going to try to, protect you guys against this. So ransomware attacks rise to 250% in 2017. Obviously, it's even greater now, hitting the U.S. the hardest. So, of course, the United States is the main target. So all of you guys that are business owners or IT directors, you need to kind of take notice of what's going on, and because it's only going to get much worse as time progresses. So that's what we want to share with you on this webinar. Joe's going to basically go into greater detail as far as how we can protect you guys and basically the things that we can do to ensure that you're not on that victim's list. So just as the slide says, education is essential in preventing future attacks, and that slide couldn't be more right. A lot of the things that we see on our day-to-day are very preventable. Education is huge, and the biggest threat in any company is human error, just not being educated, not being prepared, not knowing what to do in the event that something does happen. A lot of these events are preventable, but you need to have the proper software in place, and you also need to have proper employee education. Without that, it's just a dangerous roll of the dice. And, the cost it takes to upgrade your systems to where you need to be, it saves you, if just one time it saves you, it's more than going to be worth its weight in gold. So these are basically the easiest ways you can protect yourself, is education as a start-off point. So the evolution of crime here, so it looked a lot more dangerous and badass back in the day. You have some train robbers, you got some bank robbers, and then you got a dorky guy probably drinking coffee and hacking into some kind of company, stealing thousands of dollars. So the criminal that we thought, of yesteryear, where you can kind of pick them out and say, yeah, that's a bad guy, it really doesn't work that way anymore. It could be anyone. It could be the guy you wave to when you leave your house in the morning. Cyber criminals are, very hard to catch, and they're kind of faceless. So everyone is at risk, unfortunately, in this day and age. That's the sad truth. So WannaCrypt or WannaCry. So going back to last year, this was actually the biggest ransomware attack to ever happen. And it happened in May of last year. The day the Earth was hacked is what they call it. It was the biggest ransomware outbreak ever. At least 99 countries were attacked. Global task force was launched. The race to contain the fallout. Organizations, countless organizations were hit. Huge organizations. Potential lives were even lost. So this is something that, unfortunately, it was the biggest, but it could not be the biggest. There could be something this year that's even worse. So if companies are not taking proper precaution to prevent this and not to be a victim of this, then unfortunately you're probably going to become one. So the WannaCry virus, so it has hit over 200,000 systems in 150 countries. So it was a massive outbreak last year. I'm sure all of you guys kind of heard of it. And Joe and I being in the industry, obviously it was huge in our world. So companies knew that they need to start investing in software to kind of protect this. And the old antivirus and the things that we were using just simply don't cut it. It's not the same ballgame anymore. It would essentially be like, football players today playing with the helmets from 1950s. It's not going to work. You're going to get destroyed. These companies are not protected, and they need to basically switch up their game plan so that we can now go ahead and, counter these bad guys with what they're doing. And some people would say, well, we're patched. We have antivirus. We have managed services. We have an IT company. Well, unfortunately, it's not always that simple. The antivirus that most companies are using is simply outdated. All of our clients are really migrating away from it, and I I have a feeling that probably by the end of next year, almost all of them will be off of it because it just simply is not adequate anymore. It was years ago, and it's just not anymore. So we're going to go over some of the options that you have on how to upgrade and some of the ways that you can protect yourself and upgrade your antivirus to a much more robust system. And I'll have Joe talk about that in a little bit. But yeah, if you think you're protected just because you have an IT guy or because you have antivirus or something, unfortunately, you're sadly mistaken. And we've had plenty of clients or people that we've worked with that had those same thoughts, and then we get the phone call and, their data is lost or stolen, or it's never a pretty sight when it happens. So we're just trying to educate everyone on what could happen and try to protect your companies the best that we can. All right, so I'm going to pass it off right now to Joe for a little bit. He's going to go in some good detail with some information for you guys, and I'm going to sit back and let Joe do his thing.
Thanks, Chris. That was great information. Okay, so reason why we're talking to you today, right? So Chris and I, what we actually did is we interviewed a few companies, some new clients and existing, and also clients that we service from time to time that were break fix. And the results were shocking. So as you guys can see here on the screen, greater than 80% were affected at some point with some type of malware viruses, even though they had antivirus or a firewall or some type of IT guy that they believe was responsible for securing their business. 60% did not have their data backed up, also a critical point there. And 90% had their employees posting company data on like a personal file sharing system like Dropbox or other file sharing websites. And the best of all was that 100% of them had some type of an IT company or IT services in place. And then the last point there is that, this would never happen to me. Well, unfortunately, no matter how big or small your company may be, these cyber criminals don't really care. They know that your data is very important to you. So they're going to do everything possible to either compromise it, lock it up, and then have you pay some type of a ransom. So, that's what we're trying to avoid here and get you the best in protection that we have to offer. So again, just to kind of segue into the point that I just made about, if you don't believe that this could happen to you. So Chris and I came across an article here from Athens Orthopedic. It's a smaller healthcare facility. They had about 200,000 patient records of current and former patients that were breached. And then what they ended up doing, the hackers actually took that information and they put it on the platform that's called the dark web. And the dark web is basically like the black market for selling this type of information. So they'll go ahead and take all this info, they'll put it up there for sale, and then another hacker will come across and say, hey, you know what, I want this information. I'm going to go ahead and impersonate this person and, maybe commit bank fraud, wire fraud of some sorts, or hack into your network to lock up your files and have you pay that way. So when your computer actually gets attacked, there might be almost like a smoke screen effect, sort of. So your computer might actually freeze up or something might be going on. And when that actually happens, that's when hackers are actually grabbing that information and storing it away to, upload to the dark web so they can sell it. Luckily, Chris and I actually have a protection mechanism in place for dark web where we can alert you if your information is sitting up on there so that we can make sure that we alert you to change your password or change any other credentials that you may have and where it may have come from. And remember, like Uber, Home Depot, Equifax, Target, these are all websites that we use day to day. And unfortunately, we can only protect you from the network that we're providing services for. And these other third parties, if they get breached, unfortunately, that's not something we can do anything to prevent other than providing you that type of monitoring service from the dark web that we do have to offer.
So Joe, let me ask you, why don't we hear more about ransomware attacks in small, medium business space then?
Well, that's a good point. So put it this way, would you admit that you were hit with ransomware, if that happened to you?
No.
Yeah, and you know what? Nobody can blame you on that, right? So about if you're going to just go ahead and do PR about the community that, hey, I just got hit with ransomware, that's not really a great thing that you want to go out there and start sharing with the public.
Right. So all those statistics that we actually know, as bad as they are, one can assume that they're probably much worse actually because of all the people that actually don't report it. And if you were to be infected, that could be a nightmare because there's also legal ramifications, fines, lawsuits, legal fees. So this is really something serious to consider.
Absolutely. No one wants to be put in that type of position. So that's what we're here to prevent from happening. So the ransomware impact, right? So here's another article that we came across as well. 1 in 5 businesses hit by ransomware are forced to close. So in the UK, there are about 50% of companies where they lost their data. They were not able to retrieve it. They didn't have backups in place. They even paid for the ransomware unlock code. And unfortunately, these hackers now are actually not honoring the actual unlock code anymore. They're actually just cashing in your Bitcoins and moving along.
So they have no intention to release the data. They're just suckering you into paying it, and then they're deleting data.
Absolutely. So if you thought that that's your safety net at the end, oh, well, if I don't have a backup, I'll just pay for the ransomware unlock code. That does not work now anymore. And there is no insurance policy to get your data back, unfortunately. It's not like you can just go and buy it. Sure, you could go and buy hardware, you can purchase and reinstall your operating systems or your systems in place. But if your data is missing, you can't rebuild that. It would be very hard to redo that. That's data that's been over several course of years that's been handled from that way. So, and it'll cripple your company. I mean, it'll force you to actually close, which we don't want you to have to do that. All right, so I'm going to spend a little time going over the anatomy of a ransomware attack. How do you actually get this attack? Where does it come from? So these are the most commonly reference points of where this ransomware will come from. So it'll come from either an email, a drive-by click, or some type of insider threat. So the insider threat could be something where maybe your employees finds a USB thumb drive sitting in the parking lot of your office building, and they take it and they say, hey, you know what? Free flash drive. It's a 16 gig flash drive, and they want to go ahead and use it or see what's on there, right? So they go ahead and plug it into the computer, and then before you know it, ransomware starts loading up onto all of your systems on your network. It's really scary. It's a tricky tactic, but it could happen, and it's out there. So you definitely want to pay attention to emails that you're getting, especially let's say on a Monday morning, like around 7 or 8 a.m. That's when some of these attacks are very high, and the reason why is, Monday morning we have maybe 1,000 things on our plate that we need to review, and we get like a weird email that says, hey, your password hasn't been changed, or you need to do something about it. We're not looking carefully at the email. We enter our information in there, and before you know it, your password's compromised. And just to touch on that point, here's what a phishing email looks like. So if you can spot the issue, I kind of highlighted it here to make it very clear. So you're getting an email that looks pretty legit, right? It says your password's expired from Microsoft, and you need to go in there and change it, right? But if you look at where the email came from, the email notification is just slightly skewed. So, to the naked eye, if you looked at this really quickly, you probably wouldn't spot that. But you have to be very careful and very vigilant on, finding and noticing those attacks there. Here's another one. So this one is very questionable because an AOL address, and if you're emailing somebody, Florida Society of Rheumatology, and they're the director, but they're using some type of an AOL address, if you're not expecting some type of a DocuSign, this would be a very fishy or phony email. It I would question it. I'd maybe call the person first and make sure that this is legitimate. Simply clicking on this and seeing what it is probably the worst thing to do. So never assume. If you assume and you just open up something like that, again, it could start wreaking havoc on the network immediately. And here's another email. This is not really so much of a ransomware attack, but this is more of a bank fraud or wire fraud attack here. So how this actually works, and I don't know if you're looking at this email very carefully, right? But this email, if you look at Randy's email address at the top there, it says Randy at Albuquerque Foundation.org. Foundation, it should be, but there's an M instead of an N. And Randy is posing, I guess, possibly as the CEO of this company here. And he's asking Nick, and he probably found Nick's information on the website, or maybe he was reading through Randy's emails at some sorts, and he asked Randy, hey, actually Nick, I should say, can you actually send me, a wire transfer of $12,000? He says, sure, no problem. And then before you know it, that goes through. It's not something that you could reverse right away, unless you catch it in the nick of time. But wire transfers will go right through, and that's that. That $12,000 is gone. And it could be much more than that. $12,000 might be a lot for some small companies, but if it's larger than that, then it could do a lot more damage. So what happens when you get attacked, right? Your files get encrypted. The user has that uh-oh feeling, right? And then calls for help. Then the attack message appears, and then from there, business gets shut down for maybe several hours, several days, several weeks. It just depends. You don't want to be in that spot, and this is a serious issue that you could face. And then the questions you have to ask yourself, right? Do you pay the ransom? Do we have a backup system in place? Do I care about that data? Am I under compliance? For question number one, I would say never pay that ransom, and make sure that you have. For number two, make sure you have a backup system in place. Make sure that backup system that you understand. What's the recovery time? How long is it going to take you to recover if, let's say, you do get infected? Are you okay with being shut down for a few days? Are you okay with being shut down for a couple of weeks? It just depends. And compliance too. You don't want to get any penalties or fines. And if you're not running on the latest software, that could be damaging to your existing clients and client information and other data that you have stored internally. And just as I mentioned in a few slides, so most files can get recovered, right? But although the latest threats, they just pretty much delete your data and cash in those coins, right? So don't think of it as, hey, I'm going to hang on to some Bitcoins just in case. And yeah, if this happens, we'll be good to go. That's not usually the case. So we just want you to make sure that you don't sit back and hold on to some coins and feel that you're protected there. So this is what we actually do. So we're protecting the human against all of these different priorities. That's our first priority, is protecting you as the end user or the human. And as Chris mentioned in other slides, human error is unfortunately one of the biggest culprits on any network, no matter big or small. Human error is the biggest issue. And we do have training programs that will train and certify your entire staff to make sure that they're not clicking and activating ransomware or bank fraud of any sorts. So, and this is our list of what we do. We have to protect you from every email. We have to protect you from every website, every click, every shared file, every file on Dropbox, Anchor, OneDrive, every device, every employee, every departed employee, and we have to do this every time, right? But an attacker only needs to be right once. We have to be right all the time. So if they get any one of these items here, they're in.
Right, they're in, and basically, as we mentioned before, antivirus is no match for the new threats that we face. Years ago, these weren't needed because they simply didn't exist. It's just a different playing field nowadays. And some of these threats, malware, exploits, live attacks, like antivirus protects against none of these things. So if all you're having for your first line of defense is regular antivirus, then you guys are definitely at risk. And that's our job, to kind of educate you and know what is available to you to purchase and to have to protect you guys, because as soon as something goes wrong, I can guarantee that the first phone call you make will be to your provider, and you'll say, hey, why didn't you let us know that this could happen? Well, that's what we're trying to do now, is educate you guys so you're aware of what could happen. Being in the IT industry myself, like, I never understood why we still even use signature-based antivirus for our clients. It's so easy to beat.
That's so true. I mean, there's so many attack vectors today that antivirus typically does not see, like live attacks, exploits, and most malware. And without a quote unquote bad known list of issues, it's useless, right? So antivirus is as good as the list that it knows, like the known issues that it knows of. So if it doesn't have the latest threat that's coming out possibly today or tomorrow, then your network's at risk. With the program that Chris and I actually are proposing, it's called Sentinel-1. Sentinel-1 has built-in smart capabilities of being able to detect these issues from becoming live and active on your network. It'll actually stop it, and it'll actually roll back the issue from causing any further damage. It's the best, one of the best and state-of-the-art systems out there.
Right, so let's talk about some of the advanced technology that we as a company do offer. As Joe mentioned before, we do love to take a ton of our profit and we actually reinvest it back into the company, because the landscape changes so fast that it's very easy to be left behind, and we don't want to be left behind as an industry, and we certainly don't want any of our clients to be left behind or feel vulnerable. So that's why we're so keen on educating everyone about what's going on and what they can do to upgrade their services. So guaranteed client security, obviously a big one. Replace your outdated antivirus software with enterprise level protection. We went out in detail about that. The ability to roll back a ransomware attack. So what that means is some of you guys might have updated backups where you have a system called Datto, and that has rollback features. So if you guys were to be hacked, basically we would be able to roll it back from before when that happened, and you guys are good to go. It's almost like it never took place. So there's a lot of really cool software that comes out to combat all these new threats, and that's certainly one of them. Complete visibility into script-based attacks and other exploits that are invisible to definition-based antivirus. Again, that's just showing how antivirus is kind of becoming a thing of the past. And next-generation endpoint protection for your own MSP and your clients. So your business would be protected by that. Some other things, so fully managed antivirus replacement. By working with the companies such as ours, you would receive a team of professionals investigating threats around the clock on behalf of all of our clients. Remote incident response and security team, real-time threat analysis, advanced forensics, and client-facing incident reports, post-incident support, and coaching. So essentially, you would be getting a team of professionals dedicated to ensuring that you guys are always up to date, your security is always up to date, and that you're proactively being managed, not just waiting for something to go wrong, and then we handle it. We're proactively seeking that you guys don't have issues and you could focus on your business. That's our job. Okay, so here's talking about what we recently talked about. So how about putting your money where your mouth is? A $1 million guarantee. That's kind of why I really like Sentinel-1 as our endpoint protection. It's the only provider to offer up to $1 million guarantee. That's how confident they are about their product.
And some of their clients actually include like Visa, NASDAQ, Salesforce.com, and many other household names. And it's recognized as one of the best on Gartner's website.
Right. So it's trusted by the big name companies. I mean, that's pretty important. So here's a reminder, just because you aren't worried about your information being stolen doesn't mean your customers' information and privacy is any less valuable to them. So depending on what industry you guys are actually in, your clients, your students, your patients, your customers, if they were to find out that you weren't up to date and how casual some people are about keeping their personal information safe, how upset or worried do you think your clients would be? Obviously, I think they would be pretty upset. Would they still enroll as a student at the university? Do you think they would be likely to work with you and your firm? Do you think they will purchase products and services from you guys, or seeking medical treatment from someone else? Or would they possibly even take it to that measure and seek legal action against you guys? Many small to medium-sized businesses have regulations and compliance that they must follow, or they're going to risk significant penalties or lawsuits. These are things that we need to consider in 2018. So how can KRS IT protect you from cybercrime and network breaches? Well, we do this by providing the best in-class tools, quality education, and cybersecurity-focused sales and security team. So all of these tools would be available, as well as training. We don't want to just dump things on you guys. We know that's confusing, so we would obviously educate you on them, train you with them, and get you to the process where you need to be. All right, so we're going to move on to why should I work with KRS IT? So we're all focused in the security. I mean, that's where Joe and I focus the majority of our time now. Yes, we're a managed service provider, but we have become experts in cybersecurity, and I believe that's where the industry is kind of moving towards due to all of these threats and all the scary stuff out there. So comprehensive security focus. You'll get a professional team, not a one-man band, one IT guy that thinks he knows everything and normally would have to call for help anyway. We will increase your uptime. There's excellent response time. Exclusive customized roadmaps. So Joe and I would be meeting with you guys as far as discussing your technology roadmap, where you want to be in 6 months and so on. No long-term commitments. You're free to cancel at any time, and our clients love us, and hopefully so will you.
And we have testimonials on our website. If you also need references, we can also pass those along as well.
So let's talk about how people can start to take action. So the first step is free. Step one would be an internal threat assessment. So we would do a deep dive assessment of your network security, check your backups, and update your machines. We're going to determine what's your biggest data risk is and where we can help you build an action plan for securing that same data. And then we would schedule a time meeting where we can all discuss it. We'll run and deliver an external vulnerability scan of your business network for free. So that would be our step one. So our second step is also free. So after we do our process and after we run our report, all of what we discuss will be confidential and such, so you don't have to worry about anything like that. We'll ask you to sign a mutual non-disclosure agreement. We'll report the findings of security vulnerability scan and your options. We'll put together a customized solution for your business, cybersecurity, and management. That's a $2,000 value service. So what we're actually offering is, while our company is normally hired to do these cybersecurity audits, it's normally a $2,000 charge. But what we're going to do is, for attendees of the webinar, for the first 10 companies that contact us within the month of July, we have to put an end date of it on the 31st, but we will offer that for free. So we'll go ahead and do all this for free, and then we'll be able to put together a plan in place for you guys. This applies to this also applies to all of our current clients too. We want you guys to know, if you're not up on the latest and greatest as far as the tools and the security that we offer, a lot of this is not really too much to upgrade. So you might want to just get in touch and we can go over those that kind of information for you. We'll run the report the same way for you guys and show you where we can have find some deficiencies in the network. Again, the cost is minimal if you're already a client, because a lot of this is just software and education that we're willing to invest our time back into you guys. So, all right, and the third thing, the last thing, at this point, one of three things are going to happen. So option one is that you like the plan, but you opt to do it yourself and find an alternative option. Again, you're not committing to anything by having us do this for you guys. So you're free to give it to your IT department if you want, or hire another company. Option two, if you like the plan and you opt to have us implement it and manage it for you, obviously we would prefer you guys join the KRS family and become a client. That's what we hope. Or option three, you opt to do nothing. And unfortunately, in this world, Joe and I see it far too often. People do nothing until it's kind of too late. And then the cost to fix or to get you back to the place that you were is normally anywhere from 8 to 12 times what it would have been to simply upgrade in the first place. So that's something I really can't stress enough. To do nothing, we urge you guys not to do that. If you have to do option number one, that's fine, but we urge you not to do nothing. It's really too many threats out there, and it's simply a matter of time. All right. So just to go over a few things that we need to know. Again, we can only give the free vulnerability cybersecurity audit to businesses with at least 5 employees and that have an office. Our offer will expire July 31st, 2018, and is limited to the first 10 businesses that sign up for the free vulnerability cybersecurity audit. It's a first-come, first-served basis, and limited numbers of audits are available. So I want you to know there won't be any heavy sales pressure to buy anything, to work with us. Of course, if you may decide you want to hire us and work with us, then that will be your decision. We just want to provide a lot of value, a lot of education, answer your questions, so show you guys some ways that you might be vulnerable and a way that you could do things a little bit smarter. And that's really our main focus in this webinar. So that's it. We just wanted to educate you guys on the seriousness of the audits. If you haven't had a cybersecurity audit in a while or ever, I definitely urge you to do so. There's a lot of time and effort that plays into this, but we feel it's worthwhile. And we think it's definitely something that you guys might want to look into. So to get one, all you have to do is email us or call our sales number on the line. If you want to email us, just put in the subject cyber audit. There's only about 2 weeks left in the month, so we would urge you guys not to really wait if you're interested in doing this to get in touch with us. And after that, we could answer any questions. So I think that's basically, we're coming to the end of our webinar here. So what we'll do is we'll just open up the floor to any questions, and I'll have Joe review if you wanted to go further in depth into anything. All right, so we do have a couple of questions here, it looks like. Let's see, so John, Joe, John asked, since my company is cloud-based and using cloud technology, do I need to be worried about this?
So yes, absolutely. John, even though that your company is using cloud technologies, doesn't necessarily mean that you're fully protected. And in fact, the data, wherever you're storing it, hopefully it's not on some type of a free personal platform like Dropbox or OneDrive Personal. If you're using possibly the business version of it, that's a little bit better. But again, you still need to back up your data. That data is not being automatically backed up. So just because you're using a third-party service like that, you definitely want to make sure and to back up your information, and also leverage security services on your local computer, because your local computer is still accessing that cloud data. So if your local computer is able to run an attack, it'll run an attack on the cloud software too, unfortunately.
Okay, got it. So maybe the cloud offers a little bit of a false sense of security. So
correct.
Okay, fair enough. Let's see. So we have Tom here. So Tom asked, does purchasing SentinelOne protect me from all attacks?
No, but however, it'll lower and minimize your risk. So, we would actually put together a customized solution plan for you, as well as managed services and some of the software technologies that we offer, and the training and the education behind it. And that will actually provide you with the complete support and less of a risk of being infected.
Okay, cool. So let's see, who else do we have up here? So looks like, we have Jeremy. Jeremy is actually one of our clients. He asked if I already have a managed service plan with KRS, but do not have SentinelOne, can I purchase SentinelOne as an add-on to my plan?
Hi, Jeremy. Thanks for joining. So yes, absolutely. You can purchase SentinelOne as an add-on service to your current existing managed services plan with us. And what we'll actually do is do some type of an offset. So we'll basically trade in your existing antivirus product and then upgrade you to SentinelOne, so we can offset a little bit of that cost.
Okay, very cool. So let's see. So we have another one. So Steve asked, if I were to become a client of KRS and purchase your solution for our company, does that guarantee that I am not going to be infected with ransomware? So that's an interesting question, Joe.
Well, in short, yes. I mean, we will provide you that guarantee that we're going to do everything possible to stop a ransomware attack, and we could also leverage the $1 million guarantee from SentinelOne. So as long as you take us up on all the services and the solutions that we have in place, as well as the technology software, that will minimize your risk greatly, and will prevent your network from having some type of a breach or ransomware attack. So it basically all comes down to carefully reviewing and taking advantage of what we have to offer.
Okay, very cool. We got one or two more, it looks like. So Linda asked, I am interested, however, we might not be ready. We do have budgeting issues coming up. When would be the next time? Okay, so basically her question is, if we're not if she misses this opportunity, when is the next one that we'll be doing?
So this is only open for a short period of time right now, until the end of the month. What Chris and I are going to be doing is we'll go ahead and schedule the appointments, and over basically the next 2 months, we should be able to get that customized roadmap plan for you, and then we can go over the different services. So each business is going to vary. So, some people are just starting off into managed services. Some people have no protection. Some people have maybe some protection. It really is going to depend on what you currently have installed on your network and how everything is running. So until we can actually perform that cybersecurity audit is where we're going to be able to get that customized solution for you.
Okay, and it looks like we have one last one from Wendy. So she's kind of just asking, what is the cost? It's kind of open-ended, because we would need to obviously do like a thorough assessment on what they're looking for, what their network currently looks like. So Wendy, yeah, if you guys are interested, I would suggest emailing before, like we mentioned, and then we would be able to basically get you an in-depth answer, because to discuss pricing without thoroughly looking at the network is just kind of a guesswork. It just really doesn't work.
Okay. I think we have one more question from Lori. Lori, if you want to just go ahead and type your question in the chat box, and then we'll pull that up. If not, we could always reach back out to you offline after the webinar is ended. And we'll wait a couple minutes here to see if there's any other questions. Feel free to ask away, guys. And don't forget, again, as Chris mentioned, if you are interested in signing up with the review and assessment, the cyber audit of your network, just go ahead and send an email either to Chris or myself, and just go ahead and in the subject line put in cyber audit. Okay, we do have a question from Lori here.
It was really more of a statement. So Lori just said thank you, and it was informative. Please contact her for a quote on it.
Okay, great. You're welcome, Lori. No problem. This is definitely something that we want to provide back to our clients and new potential clients as well. So it's more of an educational topic, and we're always here to help.
All right, so guys, I think that pretty much concludes our webinar, unless there's anything else. Is there one more? Yeah, we have one more. Wendy was asking. So Wendy just followed up. Do you come into the office audit or do from online? Yeah, so Wendy, mostly we would do it from the office. We would set up a time that works for you guys, send a technician out to gather the information, and then we can thoroughly go through it and create a custom solution for you guys. So every business would be different. That's why the technician would come in. No financial information is ever looked at or anything like that. We just basically take an error log report, we run our software, and then we're able to compile a plan for you guys. So that's pretty much that. I think that's pretty much it. So yeah, so again, anyone has interest, please email at either my email or Joseph's email, or you can contact our sales line below at 201-220-1300. We thank everyone for joining us on this webinar. We look forward to doing more in the future to continue to educate all of our clients and friends. And everyone, we wish you guys have a great day.
Thanks, everybody.